Hello and welcome to Rare Cuts Media Society, a podcast that looks at hidden media gems while we wait for our superpowers to unlock. With your host, as always, I'm Andrew Jagoda, and with me we've got Mike Ross. How are you today, Mike?
I'm doing all right. I was a little confused. Did you guys all read War and Peace for this podcast?
Oh,
Tolstoy, anyone?
No,
No?
I don't think there's a lot of superheroes in that one.
I'm never going to get those hours back.
And Rob Leachik, how are you today, Rob?
I'm doing well. I definitely did not read War and Peace, but I contemplated reading Bruce Campbell's biography again, but I didn't have the time.
That is a fantastic book. And of course, Eric Hathorn, how are you today, Eric?
I am doing great. I am over the moon. Is that like sky high? That we are watching and talking about this movie.
Oh, and mentioning that, so we are continuing our Summer of Superheroes arc here on Rare Cuts. So we will go right back to Eric while he introduces us to the wonderful movie that he picked for this month.
That's right. Thank you for leading me into that. Because, yeah, I picked 2005's Sky High. It is a Disney film. Of course, I love to pick Disney films. And it's a Disney superhero movie that predates Disney's like Marvel, their Marvel acquisition. Maybe we could thank this movie for leading us to the Marvel Cinematic Universe under Disney. I don't know. Maybe that's what they were kind of shopping at, trying to figure out if it would work. But anyways, I mean, Marvel's better than this, right?
It was the
video
motivation.
comes in handy today, Eric. I don't have to say anything.
All right. No, but this is really great. This is really great. I think it's really great. Sky High. So let's get into Sky High and kind of where it sits with us and in the world. So in the 2000s, the superhero genre was having a big resurgence that would eventually lead to the birth of the Marvel Cinematic Universe in 2008's Iron Man. But at the beginning of the decade, Spider-Man and X-Men made successful franchises out of Marvel titles, and Batman Begins gave us a new look at DC's most famous character. Studios also wanted to get into the superhero family films as well. Pixar had released The Incredibles in 2004. Spy Kids, as well as Shark Boy and Lava Girl, were two Robert Rodriguez kids superhero successes of the decade, released by Dimension Films. Disney actually owned Dimension when Spy Kids was released, but by 2005, when Shark Boy and Lava Girl came out, Disney wasn't the owner of Dimension anymore, and so they launched a competing family-friendly superhero movie, Sky High. So Sky High was born out of the Disney Channel's animated series Kim Possible. The creators of Kim Possible, Bob Schooley and Mark McCorkle, both have fun names to say, wrote a script for a live-action movie adaptation of the show. The live-action Kim Possible movie got shelved, but Disney gave Schooley and McCorkle another script off the shelf to work on, one about a high school full of superheroes called Sky High. They imagined a story where Will Stronghold, the son of two of the most powerful superheroes, is about to go off to superhero high school without having discovered his superpowers yet. Will he be hero enough, or will he be relegated to hero supporting sidekick duties? All right, so that's kind of where Sky High sits as far as the chronology of superhero films. But I kind of wanted to start our conversation off. We all watched the movie. Where do you think that Sky High kind of fits into the superhero genre? There's so many different superhero movies out there. There's the big like comic book franchise ones. There's kind of the more indie comic inspired ones. But into the superhero genre of comics and movies, where does Sky High fit?
All right, I'll jump in first. I will say I think it's I think it's a superhero film, not to say by accident, but that's just kind of like just the world it exists in. It's not necessarily the main focus of the film. Yes, it builds the characters and that, but it's a teen rom-com, right? I think it just exists in a world of um of superheroes, if you will. It's a backdrop instead of like maybe the focus of the film. I don't know if any of you felt similar, or if you felt like it more focused on the superheroes, at least than I thought it did.
I mean, I think it fit really well into that genre of Spy Kids and Shark Boy and Lava Girl. It felt very similar to some of those movies. I haven't watched many of them. My kids really recently watched one that come out a couple of years ago, where like Shark Boy and Lava Girl are all fully grown now, and the kids have to come save the day. So it's kind of similar, almost like a remake of this one, if you will.
See, going into it, I didn't look it up because I couldn't remember, but I also felt like that might have jaded me to it if I did look it up. And I couldn't remember if it was a theatrical release or if it was a Disney Channel original. And I think that was smart of me not to look it up ahead of time, because I just kind of assumed in my head, I'm like, it might have been a Disney Channel original. Let's watch it. Which is what it felt like. So
Yeah.
the fact that it wasn't a Disney Channel original, it was like, oh, okay. Because to me, this is going to sound a little funny, especially since Disney owns like everything. But it felt like if you took a Disney Channel movie and the character Turbo Man from Jingle All the Way combine them, because you get that. Yes, you have Kurt Russell, a big star name, like, Jingle All the Way had Schwarzenegger, but it felt like it was subpar as a whole, kind of like how a Disney Channel movie would feel if you're thinking big theater movie, big budget. Which, I mean, this had a big budget.
Yeah.
But
well,
it just didn't quite reach that level like the superhero movies of being like, this is a big blockbuster movie. It just felt underwhelming in that sense.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I agree with that sentiment as well, in terms of it feeling more like a Disney Channel original, to the point where it almost made me want, this to be kind of like, here's the Disney Channel original movie, and now we're going to continue this on with Sky High, the series. Like, I could totally see Disney continuing on in that vein.
Yeah, I wonder too, like kind of bringing everything you guys put together, like, bringing it all together. Sky High, I had to do the same thing. I'm gonna admit to you, Andrew. When I remembered Sky High, I was like, was it a Disney Channel original movie or a theatrical release? Because I remember not being totally on my radar when it first came out. We weren't necessarily the target demographic at the time. But then when I saw the cast, I was like, oh no, there's no way this could have been a Disney Channel original movie, because there are a lot of names. There's a lot of names in it. But to go back to the point where we were talking about, like, it's a rom-com with a superhero backdrop. I kind of feel like that's one of those innovations that the Marvel Cinematic Universe has kind of embraced in doing kind of genred movies with superheroes in them. You get like this is a sci-fi movie with superhero, with the Marvel Cinematic Universe. This is a horror movie, and something like the Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, or like the Moon Knight stuff. So like, I feel like that could we say that, I'm going to go back to, maybe this is going to be my big question that comes through it. Could we say that Sky High paved the way for Disney's MCU? What do you think at this point? I'm going to check in with you guys.
No.
I would say no to that, but I will say, if you're comparing it to Marvel versus DC, it's way closer to Marvel. I mean, they do all of the naming conventions where it's like, we got to use the letter G for the first name and the last name. We got to use. I mean, all of the superhero names sound like Marvel to me.
Yeah, it felt like an X-Men Mutant Academy type thing.
Yeah, and like calling it the Secret Sanctum. I was like, Marvel would do that. You got to have that alliteration, you know.
But I mean, honestly, if you take away the superhero elements from the movie, you're left with a very cliche, generic, forgettable movie. That's so much like all the other kind of teen will they, won't they rom-coms.
Let me ask this. So when I did pick this one, now it seems like we all knew it was kind of, or I shouldn't say we all knew, but we all kind of discovered that it was kind of a Disney Channel movie masquerading in the theatrical skin that it was released in. But when I picked it, and I think I even said this at the end of the last episode when I introduced it, is I thought there would be a little something for each and every one of you in this movie. So even if you didn't like it as a whole, I want to know about what was that thing that you would maybe say that was in it for you. So when I picked it, I was thinking maybe there's a little something that each of you could latch on to. What was in it for you?
Bruce Campbell. Brucey baby. He's
Cloris Leachman.
I mean, hey, she had a small part in it, right?
The one thing I enjoyed, I did kind of enjoy some of the music. It definitely made it feel like they were trying to remake an 80s rom-com with all like the covers, but like in 2005. But I did enjoy the music in general. The one song I did like the most was, I do like the cover of Through Being Cool by They Might Be Giants. It's a good song. Really enjoyed that. Sure. I did not look to see what was this. I usually like to look what songs or what the soundtrack is, especially for a movie like this, because a lot of it's could be driven by some of the songs, or at least it kind of holds it together. But I didn't, and I was pleasantly surprised to hear Through Being Cool in the film. I think it was early on too, so kind of sucked me in a little bit at the beginning.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you brought up the again with like the 80s teen movie, because they do go through it. There's all those tropes of the 80s teen movie. There's the dance, there's a house party, there's all that stuff that goes through it. And that maybe it's not a superhero movie, like you said, and it's actually just more of that 80s teen. It's a John Hughes film masquerading as it's a recycled John Hughes film, or amalgam of John Hughes films masquerading as a superhero movie made for the Disney Channel but released in the theaters. But we see we're getting a definition for what is Sky High, but Sky High has a pretty star-studded cast, which does 2 out of 3 of you, and I said I picked this thinking there would be something in it from you, 2 out of 3 of you said it was the cast. So let's talk about the cast. What was what was great about the casting that we got in this movie, or maybe what you didn't like too about the casting here?
Well, I think what was most fascinating was to look up some of the characters and see what they've done since then. And my conclusion is, we were watching a movie in which, to some degree, all actors and actresses had sold their souls to Disney as children, including Kurt Russell. So,
yes, that's true. He goes way back.
Are you saying the kids in the hall sold their soul to Disney?
Yes.
Lorne Michaels is rolling in his grave. No, wait, he's not dead yet.
But I thought that it was just interesting to see, like Andrew was pointing out, some of them have gone on to work in Star Wars series. Others are voice actors in like Lilo and Stitch, and there's just tons of Disney connections throughout an already Disney connected movie. So
the thing for me was that, like how we were saying earlier about kind of that Disney Channel feel, it was like you had that, but then they threw so much money into it that you got these bigger names, as opposed to a Disney Channel original where like one guy because he was on some TV show 10 years ago or something. But the problem with it that kind of leaned it more back toward the Disney Channel was, where's the chemistry? Like you have Dave Foley and Kevin McDonald.
Yeah.
They've got a long history together. There wasn't a whole lot of them together in the movie. You've got Bruce Campbell, who I love, but he's not really doing much most of the movie. He doesn't interact with like Kurt Russell at all. And if it were me, I would have them interact at least a couple of times, because back when they started their careers, they basically had the same egotistical characters all the time. So you bring these names in, but then it's just kind of like, okay, well, we're going to set you over here and you over here and you over here. So you can't really say like, this is a movie where the ensemble is all these big names. It's more like you have different scenes with certain people, just that chops it up so much that you're not really getting that big feel of like, oh, a big budget, all these stars together working. No, they're working with the kids, and then they're just off in their own little scenes. And
now I will add, now isn't that kind of typical of a Disney kind of like kids, either a TV show or a film, where the focus is really on the kids, and even if the adult actors are incredibly famous, they always kind of seem to kind of have a subdued role in whatever it is, TV or film. So I think it kind of, for me, it kind of followed that same formula a little bit. But I agree with you. I think it would have improved the film, and really kind of brought some of the things together. Like if Bruce Campbell and like Kurt Russell, because you could obviously sense like in between their different scenes, obviously not together, like there was some sort of like butting of heads at some point in time.
Yeah, like,
they could have
he's just getting back with me.
Yeah, they could have like brought that back at some point, but that was like kind of like a missed opportunity. I thought some of the funnier scene, at least including the adult characters, I think it was Bruce Campbell and Kevin McDonald were like drinking at a bar or something, and they were going back and forth. Like that was kind of like some of the scenes I wish they would have done more, like had some of that kind of stuff. But again, I'm sure the main target audience was teens, preteens, and such. So who's going to want to watch Bruce Campbell and Kevin McDonald go back and forth and tell jokes like from the 80s? Well, I would, yes, I would as well, but maybe not for the target audience.
Now, I think it's interesting you guys brought up like the interaction between Kurt Russell specifically and some of those other actors, because within the movie itself, there's a big part of the movie that's based on like a superhero class system between superheroes and their sidekicks, which in the movie they call hero support, because sidekick is maybe more of a derogatory term. There's a whole Harry Potter style like sorting ceremony where you show off your super skill, and then they decide if it's worthy of being a main star hero or if it is just like some sort of sidekick gag kind of thing. And when you really do think about superhero genre in general, like Marvel and DC, there is a pecking order in the superheroes. Like you have a Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman are like at the top of the Justice League, and then like Aquaman is not as popular, the Flash maybe not as popular. If you go into the MCU, you've got your main Avengers, your like 4 big main Avengers. You got Thor, the Incredible Hulk, which honestly I think the Incredible Hulk, in my opinion, is not as cool. He doesn't get as much, or I should say, he doesn't get as much love. He's a cool character, but he doesn't get as much love. I'll say it too.
Okay.
but he doesn't get as much love.
Whoa.
And then like your Tony Stark, your Iron Man, and your Thor, like those core Avengers are like the Avengers from the comics. And then you have all these other Avengers and people who have joined, and they're not maybe as well known as the core group. And then you have even lesser and lesser characters who, you know, sometimes make cameos in movies, and the average viewer doesn't even realize that that's someone from the comics. And so there is a definite, I think, pecking order in comics with heroes. And in this movie, the working, actual out in the field working superheroes are played by Kurt Russell as the Commander, and Jetstream is Kelly Preston, who are bigger name actors with bigger movie credits than the superheroes who are not out there fighting crime, but teaching at the school, like Bruce Campbell, Dave Foley, Kevin McDonald. Then you get some kind of like retired legends in Cloris Leachman, and then Lynda Carter, Wonder Woman, is running the whole school as the principal. But they're not out there in the field doing the superhero work. They're at the school teaching the new up and coming superheroes. And it's almost, I got the impression that this movie, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong, but this movie was intentional about that casting and the amount that those star superheroes would talk to the maybe lesser superheroes because of that superhero class system. And maybe what do you guys think of that? Does that answer the question of maybe why Kurt Russell wasn't having as much interaction with the others?
Yeah, I could see that explaining it. It's still just, I mean, it's one thing to have it and say, you know, that makes sense. And another to say, well, yeah, but couldn't you have a scene or two just to kind of show us what that would be like? Because like Rob was saying with Bruce Campbell versus Kurt Russell, you know, there's mention of, oh, he's getting back at me because of blah, blah, blah. Well, maybe if there was even a scene where they just kind of had 2 or 3 lines against each other, like they're arguing, like it could give you some reason as to why not only they don't like each other, but the reason why they were cast in the movie together. It just,
I mean, even beyond that,
yeah.
they could have had a scene where they like reconciled too. That would be even more Disney friendly, right? You like break down the walls and bring it back to good relationship between two characters who maybe one time didn't see eye to eye. But yeah, that was. I definitely think there's something to that, but I just go back to my initial thought, like a big time lost opportunity.
Yeah.
Just overall in the film to kind of leave the adult characters kind of on their own, on little islands, if you will.
I do think we have left the kid characters on their own ourselves. Talking only about the big star, grown-up characters. So let's talk really quick about the kid characters. Were there any that you thought were like fun? Like there were a lot. So in the movie, it does focus on, I think, more of the sidekicks actually, because Will's group that he kind of hangs out with is mostly made up of sidekicks. And were there any of the sidekick character like powers that resonated with you? You thought were fun gags? Or
so the girl that can turn into a guinea pig. that was one of my moments where I said, Disney Channel original.
there was that hamster movie. Oh, it's gonna kill me. I'm gonna look it up. But no, keep talking sidekick powers.
You know, the whole scene where it's chewing through the wire and it's so fake. I was like, this is amazingly terrible.
The other one I did enjoy was where the one kid just like disintegrates into a puddle of goo and like can just like go around and like go under doors and that. I was just like, really?
You mean the murderer?
No. Turn to a dark corner here, my guy.
You call it like I see it. He got one too many swirlies in the toilet, and he took it out on the Stretch Armstrong guy. and flushed his head down the toilet. He's dead.
Well, he had it coming. He had it coming. What do you say?
You
What do you
just
mean?
made it go real dark.
Real bad.
You think that's dark? Wait until your later question about the sequel.
Oh, yikes. Yes. Coming soon to our conversation. I do have to throw out there, when you brought up the guinea pig, there was a Disney movie. It was a Disney movie. G-Force was like a team of guinea pigs. So I'm sure maybe if you guys don't agree with me that Sky High started the MCU, maybe you'll agree with me that Sky High led to G-Force, the Disney movie with a guinea pig like super force.
I'll give you that one.
Okay, I'll mark that down as a win for me there. I'm still gonna work on that MCU thing though. I'm still gonna work on that.
Not a sidekick, but I would say that War and Peace, the hero that has firepower, he's a cool character. He's like a good person, and I was frustrated that there was this love story between Will and Layla, and Will is just kind of like, whatever, she's just a friend, and Layla wants more, but then she has this nice guy, War and Peace, that's really kind, listens to her, offers to help her, advice. It's like, you should be with that guy.
he got friend zoned.
Yeah.
I will say he was the most dynamic character out of any of the kids in the film. Like, I mean, because he came off initially like with that like dark, brash character, like kind of unpredictable, and then to be like a busboy in a restaurant, with a heart of gold, if you will. Definitely most dynamic.
We must also acknowledge that Will Stronghold discovers he has super strength. He knocks War and Peace through multiple walls, through a concrete pillar, and Warren just like gets up like, whatever. And it's like, man, you must also be super strong.
Yeah. He's got the super resilience for sure. Yeah. He's probably the most developed character. Like, because even his backstory is he's kind of got a like a super villain father and a superhero mother. Like, so he's got like that kind of which would lead you to be like one of those tortured hero, kind of like the Punisher, or I'm trying to go like even like a Batman kind of has that dark side to his backstory. And like, you know what I mean? Like he'd have kind of that brooding, like, so they got one of those, and he's a very interesting character. So we talked cast. We talked about the cast for sure. Rob, you had mentioned that you like the music, which I have. I'll talk about the music too, of course, as we go through it. I loved the music. I'm not gonna lie, but the soundtrack did get pretty dismal reviews. I think like on AllMusic and some other review kind of aggregators, it's got like 2 out of 5 stars. So like I know so far me and Rob have weighed in on if we like it. I like the music. Rob liked it. What about you guys, Andrew and Mike? What did you like or not like about the music?
I liked the use of it. I hate to keep going back to the whole Disney Channel feel, but it just keeps popping up because I mean it. You know, I get it. Early 2000s, they want to appeal to that age of the audience. I get why you use the covers that they did, but for me, of course, at my age, I'm like, just use the originals. Come on. Like you want all this 80s music. You're obviously understanding that people a little bit older are going to be watching it too and saying, oh, I remember when I was in high school and we danced to whatever. So just at least a couple of them shouldn't have been covers.
I would have enjoyed hearing Through Being Cool by the Devo original. The kids might have been turning, if it was on Disney Channel, they might have been turning it off, but So I understand the reason why they maybe did some of those, but yeah, like I mean, the Tears for Fears. There's no reason they couldn't have used the original. Well, I get it, right? They want to give it that modern vibe. I get it. That just kind of follows that formula, right? I mean, even this was probably around the time when, like, even outside of this film, I think this had to be around the time like the punk goes pop type of albums were out. So it's just kind of, it was just kind of a trend, if you will, at the time.
I didn't really notice the soundtrack so much. It was just kind of there and generic for me. I was caught up in the gripping story.
Gotcha. Well, the soundtrack wasn't for you, bah. No, I'm just kidding. But so I have this weird. So I'm gonna speak directly, really quick, to the covers thing, and so there were some other movies that did this around the time, and they were like there's that movie Not Another Teen Movie. That came out right around this time, and that was all 80s. It was like the same kind of soundtrack as this. 80s covers, probably done a little bit better. But one thing, if you go through the list of these artists, because I like Bowling for Soup, they might be giants, are on there. Vitamin C I knew of, but a lot of the bands I didn't know. So like the ones who, like, not the songs that were covered, but the song, like the bands who were covering the songs. And if you look through the list, they're almost 90% Hollywood Records bands, which that's Disney's record label. So if we go back to like, this is Disney making a Disney movie with, as Mike said, a lot of Disney actors and a lot of Disney songs, it is a big, like, Disney promoting Disney. And I know it's my other show, but a big synergy moment. I have to say synergy because it is what it is. And that's, I think, where those covers are coming from. And I had this problem where I loved the music because I love covers and I love 80s music, but it kind of took me out of the movie. Because when the songs would come in, it didn't say anything superhero to me. And then I was like, oh, listen to this. It's Tears for Fears, or, oh, it's the Cars. And it wasn't like, this is Sky High. I don't think it enhanced the movie for me.
No, it definitely did not. I mean, it was good in my opinion, but I agree with you. It didn't necessarily enhance the film.
All right. I do just want to shout out real quick, though, that the score, which wasn't included in the soundtrack itself, is a Michael Giacchino, which he is he's not a Disney legend yet, but he basically is, because he's done so much with Disney and Pixar and all sorts of like Up and yeah.
Eric, you got to say that guy's name 3 times fast.
Michael Giacchino. I think I'm pronouncing it right. Michael Giacchino. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. Otherwise, I'm just saying.
I just like the way you said it. It sounded good. I like it.
I like Rob thinks he's going to appear like Beetlejuice or something.
Yeah.
If he would, though, I have some things that maybe he could autograph for me. So maybe I think I only said it twice. So Michael Giacchino.
All of a sudden, Michael Keaton shows up. What am I here for?
It didn't work. Let's get into this. Is a big usually we culminate in something like this, or we lead towards something like this, and this is a big tradition on Rear Cuts Media Society to talk about recasting the movie in a way, or like updating it. But I don't want to recast Sky High. I feel like Sky High has enough big names. There'd be so many to try to recast, and some of them we might just keep the same because we do love a good old Bruce Campbell. But I want to talk about something a little bit similar to this idea of recasting. There was supposed to be a sequel made for Sky High that never got off the ground. There was actually also talk of, after the sequel, to maybe doing a follow-up series. I know we mentioned that earlier. But there was supposed to be a sequel, and it was going to be called Save You, like the letter U, like university. So like after you graduate from Sky High, you could go to Save You. Yay. That's a terrible pun. It's so bad. But I want to ask you, to save you from the shelf. And I want you to give me a plot and a little bit of casting that we could do for a sequel that would take place in a superhero university.
Okay, so for me, you take the kids, and it's that they're graduating Save You, and let's say it's graduation times in like a week or something, but the school gets destroyed, and the main kids survive, but this is where I said it's going to get dark. There are a lot of kids that died from it getting blown out of wherever it is.
This is Disney. You can only kill moms.
Oh man, come on. He's not wrong, but come on.
Okay, the PTA board gets blown up. and so of course the main kids are trying to figure out who did it, solve that mystery. So what we have is a supervillain group of kids, former kids that were expelled or didn't graduate from Save You, so they became supervillains, and they formed almost like a Lex Luthor style group of villains headed by Willem Dafoe.
Oh God!
Because we have
Willem Dafoe.
He's perfect for it.
So would he play the Green Goblin type character?
Sort of. No, and I want him to have on his team Benicio del Toro, because I always mention him because he's great. And then I don't know if you would make him like the principal, or if he could do either. He could do that, or he could be a villain. But Forrest Whitaker, I really would love to see that, because if you want the villain side of it, he's got that kind of aged tough look, but he could be a hero too. So
maybe he could masquerade as a hero and then flip, kind of like we had in this one with Royal Pain.
Yeah,
so you could use him both ways.
Forrest Whitaker, I love him. He's a very, very great actor. So I think he'd be in my top casting choice. And as far as the kids, cast whoever you want. I don't care.
Oh man, we're gonna skip right through the whole university experience to the end and cast whoever you want, but I want Forrest Whitaker. That's the summary of Andrew's.
Blow them up all out of the sky. I don't care.
Well, that's what you practically did at the beginning of your plot.
That's right.
You just kept a couple of them around.
So I actually had two ideas. So one of them was a sequel, but the other one was a prequel.
Oh.
Which I think could be done. Kind of goes along the lines of things I was talking about earlier. But I'll go with the sequel first. We could come back to the prequel if you guys want to hear it.
For sure.
I didn't focus too much on the casting because I kind of along Jagoda's line. I don't think it really matters, at least from where I was coming from, for the young kids, right?
Y'all don't like the kids.
Nobody liked the kids.
Come on.
So first off, I would drop the whole like rom-com type of piece. I would make it more of a serious film. The backdrop of it would be, I think, more instead of like a superhero where like the commander's wearing this like crazy, like very what's the word I'm thinking of? Big fancy costume, right, and all that kind of stuff. It's more like a X-Men mutant style situation. Say someone's like from a small town and they go to a university, say in Chicago or LA or New York City. Yeah, and it's kind of almost like a Professor Xavier's school for gifted young adults, if you will, not for kids. And where it kind of in a similar way where like movies about people going away to college and they get caught up in all sorts of crazy stuff, drugs, music, kind of expand their horizons a bit, but do that with the background of like a mutant story. as well as like supervillains that could exist in the city. I would think that would be kind of an interesting way of having like a superhero type of situation. It almost have a way of thinking of Logan, but not at the end of his life, but at the beginning of, or like those younger years where obviously he's a superhero, but he's living a normal life, or as normal as Logan can. But that's what my thought for as a sequel. So definitely not a rom-com, not goofy, definitely not for Disney. Because there's lots of good crazy things that can happen in a college environment that definitely are not suitable for Disney.
Yeah. Debauchery,
yes. Bring on the debauchery.
We've got death from Andrew, debauchery from Rob. Mike, what do you've got for us?
Which one of the horsemen will you be?
Okay, well, I'll just say this. You can cut as much of this out as you want.
Oh,
that means we leave it all in.
So I took more of the approach of this would probably, at this point, be a Disney, probably a Disney Plus type movie, original movie. So for Save You, I was thinking Baron Battle, War and Peace's father, played by Willem Dafoe, is granted parole early due to a computer glitch. Strongholds protest, and the superhero high courts agree with them, but ultimately side with their records. While they're leaving the court, it's discovered that they were involved in some criminal real estate schemes, like quid pro quo superhero stuff, that led to the 2008 housing market collapse. Commander and Jetstream are imprisoned. Will is in his senior year of college at Save You when he finds out his parents are criminals. War and Peace is greeted by his father outside of class one afternoon, and he is hesitant with his newly paroled father. But Warren quickly warms up to the Baron, only to discover that it's all a front. And Baron was hoping to recruit him for his new team of supervillains, including Royal Pain. The villains have created a device that is pulling the moon out of space to crash in to Save You and destroy the next generation of supers, along with almost everyone on Earth. Warren sides with his friends and together informs the courts of the plots. The strongholds are immediately released after they are realized that the court documents have been altered by Royal Pain. They can see the moon falling, and Commander and Jetstream say that they'll deal with it, and they fly off to the moon to put it back in orbit. As they make contact, he realizes it was a trap. They have a superpower inhibitor around the moon, just like they had in detention, and they lose their powers, and they're going to be crushed. The sidekicks once again team up and infiltrate Baron Battle's space fortress. They take on a number of henchmen and Royal Pain once more. Baron Battle neutralizes all of the heroes. Warren enters and says, "You may have won this battle, Dad, but you'll never win the war." And at that point, points and blasts his father and rescues his friends. Commander and Jetstream regain their powers and just barely prevent the moon's impact. Layla is there and begins to terraform the moon as it ascends back into the sky, and the moon now becomes the new home of Sky High and Save You. Roll credits.
I think Mike wins.
You took this assignment very seriously.
Mike, did you take a day off of work to like put that together?
That sounds like it's all things that could happen in the sequel. Like all of the elements were like, we don't have to suspend our sky high disbelief for any of that to happen. Well done. I also like that they caused the 2008 bubble to burst. So I want to see that Save You. Can we see that Save You? Is that going to be an option?
If Disney wants to steal it, they can. Just put my name in there somewhere. I don't want any money. Just make the movie.
Oh, come on. Man wants to get paid.
Send the checks to
Rare Cuts Media Society.
and then we'll do that episode after they make it.
Yeah.
If we're done talking sequels, I would like to bring up my
prequel.
idea as a prequel. So again, going back to we talked about with Sonic Boom, Bruce Campbell, and the Commander, Kurt Russell, and then even which I don't know if did we ever see Baron Battle? I don't think so.
No.
Did
No.
that character ever make an appearance? It was just mentioned. Like
Right.
there was all sorts of things of like Sonic Boom and the Commander as kids, right? Like not getting along, and then there was also the Baron Battle was taken under arrest or whatever you want to call it with the help of the Commander. That could have been a prequel. All those things that occurred for those and those circumstances. So either use another actor, obviously a much younger actor than Kurt Russell, or do some sweet like de-aging and of Kurt Russell and Bruce Campbell. But yeah, like that would be I thought for a prequel. I mean, realistically, they could probably do that and still be Disney Channel friendly.
Oh, for sure.
Kid friendly versus our debaucherous and our
debauchery
versions.
You guys did like the Frank Miller versions of it was like like that gritty Batman and Sin City all rolled into one right there.
See, Rob wanted like Animal House. I wanted Empire Strikes Back, and Mike wanted Citizen Kane.
It was ambitious, that's for sure, but I think it could work. I think that one could work.
What about you? Do you have any ideas?
I'm going to green light yours. That's for sure. That's 100% sure. I'm going to admit that my answer is a little tainted because recently, one of the creators of the movie and Kim Possible and like one of the writers, they kind of talked about what was supposed to happen, in the Sky High Save You sequel that they were planning. So like I'll kind of speak to that a little bit because that's where my brain goes. But it was supposed to be very similar, somewhat to Andrew, except even further in the future. So like not even skipping the university experience. It was going to because it wasn't going to like come out until like 2016. So the kids who were in it, to bring them back, they would be much older than that college age. They'd have to make it way back, a few years earlier to make it their college experience. So in Save You, the kids were going to be back at the university. So the kids would as teachers, they would kind of take the role of the teaching superheroes and be like the big name actors of the movie. Which already, because some of them have gone on to other things, but like already that kind of downgrades the star-studdedness of the cast. But they were going to kind of come at it from that way, and they're like teaching the new upcoming superheroes, but in the college setting, so that they could change sets and have kind of more things, but then still kind of keep some of the connective threads back to. I'm going to make a comparison. And I hope you enjoy this comparison because I enjoy it a lot. But it would kind of remind me then more of Grease 2, where the whole cast is gone except Frenchie has come back to work at the school. And it's like a whole new, group of T-Birds and Pink Ladies, but they are somewhat related to, there's like an Australian dude who's related to Sandy. And there's, I think Michelle Pfeiffer was somehow related to Danny Zuko or something like that. And they kind of shoehorn a new story into so I think I would go that way. The way of Grease 2, which Grease 2 is great in its own way for being so campy and ridiculous, that I would hope that Save You would be even more campy and ridiculous than Sky High. So
when did you guys figure out Gwen was the the main antagonist.
So I'll tell you my saga of that, because we actually didn't talk about villains all that much. We talked more about heroes, but that is kind of the focus of the movie. I love Jim Rash. He is on Community as the dean, and he cracks me up in anything he's in. So the minute I heard Jim Rash as the kind of like supervillain sidekick, I can't even remember his name, I was like, is that Jim Rash? And I like looked it up and I was like, Jim Rash. And of course the what you call it, the cast list, his credit reveals that the sidekick is Gwen's dad. And I was like, man, Grayson, it's the same name. Like,
you ruined the story
okay,
for yourself.
so I know they're in cahoots. But then I got confused, just like Will Stronghold, because Will Stronghold was like, oh man, this is Royal Pain's daughter. And I was like, is it Royal Pain's daughter? Because that doesn't make sense. Like, maybe. So is Jim Rash really her? So like Royal Pain and the sidekick like hooking up or something? Okay, whatever. In this world, it could be, I guess. And then like almost immediately, that's when she was like, no, I am Royal Pain and the laser and all that stuff. But that's my saga of revealing it. It kind of ruined it.
That's not your saga. That sounds like Mike Birbiglia's saga of.
I listened to too much of Mike Birbiglia. But that's the way I thought.
I will say, for me, I knew something was up when he was like, I'm not taking you to the dance. And she turned from like this like really nice, sweet girl to like devil incarnate. It's like, whoa, hold up there, girl. Something's not quite right here. But that was, then I'm kind of like, all right, this got to be the twist.
I was suspicious at the point where he comes into superhero class and it's like, oh, no other lab partners, but you can have my teaching assistant, which was Gwen, and she's like uber nice to someone that I don't think she would be nice to, so it seemed kind of phony. I was like, I'm suspicious of you. And then like when they eventually go and they have like the homecoming committee party at his house and there's all these kids, and then she's like, oh, I wish I could have some time with just you and have some quiet. It's like, well, then why did you invite all these people over, Gwen? You're a liar.
It was up to no good.
And then, like you said, it reveals at the end that she is really, who knows how old, like in her 40s. So she's also a pedophile. So coming for you, Disney.
Yeah.
Oh,
there you go. There's a pencil drop right there.
I gotta give you another. Oh man, because that.
Oh man,
there.
We need that sound effect. The.
Oh, I don't have my soundboard hooked up. I don't have it hooked up.
Which I didn't realize as I was watching the film, but it looked up like the cast later on. Apparently, the ever famous David Putty from Seinfeld also did the voice of Royal Pain when, like in the suit and all that kind of stuff. But I was like, interesting.
Yeah,
a good David Putty reference.
David Putty, Patrick Warburton, is also basically Disney royalty. He does the Soarin' pre-flight check in the ride in the parks, and he's Kronk from The Emperor's New Groove. There's more. I can't remember them all, but those are a couple of them. So there's more of that. Everyone here.
That's right.
Connected.
Yeah, that's right.
It's all connected.
That's right.
That's how we do.
The 8 ball.
See,
Talk to the 8 ball.
All signs point to yes.
No, for me though, I've assumed she was the villain pretty quick because of her billing in the credits. I'm like, there's a villain, and we're running out of names. So then as soon as she was sitting there and invited his parents to the homecoming, I'm like, there's no
Oh,
reason
yeah.
for that. She's up to something. So I didn't know if
Definitely.
she was going to be the main villain or not, but at that point I was kind of like,
Something no good.
she's behind it.
The thing that is most interesting is they have a yearbook from when they went to Sky High, the Strongholds, and they're looking through the yearbook and reminiscing, and they see Gwen, who's sitting right next to them in the yearbook, and they're like, "Oh yeah, she was weird," and like they're just being bullies to her.
Yeah.
And then they go and they find the club photo for Science Club or whatever they were in, and she's holding the pacifier. It's all right there. They know who Royal Pain is.
You're
They're all
forgetting,
stupid. You're
though.
basically saying.
You're forgetting, though, that in this superhero world, glasses are enough
Yeah,
to
I know.
disguise you. And she was wearing
I
glasses
know.
in the yearbook photo. Glasses could even
Glasses.
fool a superhero.
That's true. Well, and see, from
Yeah.
what I keep hearing is that this wasn't supposed to be just your typical superhero movie. It's meant to be more of a spoof and kind of making fun of the genre.
It kind
And
of does.
it does, but I don't think it did it enough to be really overt in nature. And so I think that's where I struggled with the movie was it's like, oh, is this supposed to be funny or is this serious? I couldn't tell if the movie took itself seriously and which direction it was going. So I think they could have played it up more. I like more of like the self-realization type films like Deadpool, where they're very aware of what they are and make fun of it.
Which can we say that Sky High walked so that Deadpool could run? Because
Oh,
maybe Sky High
well, wasn't
has more to do with the creation of the MCU under Disney than we
no,
think.
I don't think so.
No.
Have I convinced anyone?
Nope.
I didn't think I was going to, but I figured I'd try.
I feel what really happened was Disney did its foray into superhero movies was like, it was moderately successful because it made twice its budget back. But it probably wasn't enough that they wanted to continue. Like it wasn't like a huge blockbuster. And so then I could see Disney thinking, let's just buy Marvel.
So by that,
I'll
does
give you
that
that. I'll give you
prove
that.
so have I somehow got at least Mike to some little bit admit that maybe Sky High had some sort of even little decision-making part in the MCU coming to Disney? I'll take it.
There you go.
Can I bring up one weird thing about this? I want to know who,
Only
because
one?
it's all about, well, but I want to know, all of these Disney connections. We're bringing on all these Disney people. Who was it that said, okay, we've got this bit part, and we're going to bring in two of the people from SpongeBob? Like, was that their ploy to like try and get a foot in the door to SpongeBob or something? Like, I don't get that.
So that's the people who they just bought the house
just bought the
at
house.
the end.
It's Tom Kenny, SpongeBob, and Jill Talley, Karen, the robot from SpongeBob.
So then, yeah, as it's Sky High is about to fall on their house,
Yeah.
and they're standing in front of it, and they are basically cast of SpongeBob.
I'm like, if you're gonna put random people in that spot, you don't have to pay for Tom Kenny, who costs a ton at that time. He was, I mean, even then he was huge. I don't get what the point of casting SpongeBob was. Seems like they could have picked somebody voicing a Disney cartoon at that point. Like Jim Cummings could have been there.
That's true. That would have been good.
Yeah.
Yeah. It kind of felt a little non-Disney. It kind of, you know what I mean? It kind of took it out of Disney, like, you know. Which, could I see Sky High being a Nickelodeon movie? Sure. Sure, I could see it being a Nickelodeon movie.
You know what? Actually, I just thought of this, going back to Mike's point of spoofing itself. Disney could have spoofed itself and had the house get crushed because they were Nickelodeon actors.
They could have gone that way.
Like, sorry, you're not with Disney.
And something else that I feel gets overlooked in the movie, because it's just like a one-liner, but the Strongholds are incredibly old. They talk about being around Hawaii when King Kamehameha was there in the 1800s. So not only do they have their standard superhero ability, but they also have longevity, or they just don't age.
If the Strongholds are that old, when did they go to Sky High? And how old are the rest of the adults in the movie? Because they went, you're right, because the yearbook is like from the 70s.
They're like Yoda, right? I mean, in terms of how they age, they're 500, but they're just kids, maybe.
I didn't even think of that.
So if that's true, then
That'll
how do
keep
the
you up
kids
tonight.
age?
Maybe they
I don't
age
know.
normally until adulthood, and then it's just like perpetual youth.
Or are they like Grogu and they're actually like 50?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
And they're just now going to Sky High.
So my last major gripe with the movie as a whole,
yeah, go for it,
because I have to just get it off my chest, and that is,
do it.
I like the story of a child of two huge superheroes not having powers. I thought the movie was going to go in a completely different direction in terms of Will's not going to have powers. He's going to become friends with sidekicks. He's going to see the value in sidekicks. They're going to find value in maybe his insight or intellect, and they're still going to team up and save the day with no superpowers. But instead, the movie's like, no, he's going to get into a stressful situation. He's going to get his superpowers. He's going to go to the superhero class. He's going to hang out with his sidekick friends less. He's going to go with the popular girl in the superhero class. And I was like, what are you doing? It's like, I like the story I thought you were going for, and then you're going to have more of a meaningful ending. And because honestly, the superheroes in the story are, for the most part, egotistical and really obnoxious. Will's parents don't acknowledge or realize even he doesn't have any superpowers. They don't spend time with their child. They don't know anything about him. And so I'm just frustrated that the movie was like, okay, just give him the superpowers. Just make him super. Oh, by the way, everyone else only has one superpower. Give him two. He's got two super. He's twice as super, because you have to be super to win the day. And I was just like, I don't like that message.
This podcast is turning into a therapy session for Mike. Well, I didn't have superpowers
to the movie. Yeah.
See, my problem is I watch movies and then there's a lot of movies that are just really good and I can't think of anything else. But then I come across movies like this where the writers went in a direction I don't understand, and it's like an easy way out, rather than trying to write more of a heartfelt script.
Well, could that just be the nature of the studio that produced it, right? I can't say
now.
teen.
You mean the studio that brought you Avengers Endgame? And
but
the
remember,
studio
the
that
target
brought you
audience. Remember, the target, the studio and its target audience is kids. let's be real. A lot of those plots are kind of one-dimensional.
It's the guys who wrote Kim Possible.
Yeah.
I love Kim Possible.
Yeah, it was a good series.
From the
But
studio
there's
that brought you Condor Man.
Yes, which will be on the list at some point. I know that was possibly one of my superhero picks that got put on the cutting room floor. Maybe you guys are better at, maybe that's your supervillain origin story against me, but going for Sky High. But anyways.
So I sit there and I come up with my own story that I've developed, and then I get mad when I don't see it. And that's my problem. That's my issue.
And then you just developed a whole sequel story that went above and beyond. And you should put it in an envelope and send it to Disney.
I'm just going to send it to Kurt Russell. He's going to be like, I haven't done anything in a little bit. I've been Santa Claus twice. Let's do this.
I can't remember specific moments, but I just remember the commander getting like unnecessarily like and aggressively mad for no reason at certain parts of the film. He would just like be something like, "Oh, I forgot my hat." Damn it! Ah! And he would like lose his
super
mind.
Emotions. So he gets super mad or super happy, you know?
Yeah.
Well, and again, the superheroes don't even acknowledge the good deeds and helpful sidekicks and hero support. So again, the heroes are awful people in this world.
Yeah.
Bruce Campbell, awful person.
Well, and come on. You have one guy that in all of superherodom gets to decide what path you go down.
Although you can change it, as we saw. You can change your path.
I mean,
if you suddenly develop superpowers.
I think turning into a puddle is kind of cool. So
yeah,
it's true. It's pretty cool. I'm not gonna lie.
Let's give it a good old Siskel and Ebert. Would you give it? You could give 2 thumbs, 1 thumb, no thumbs, or like both down. I guess you would say.
I'll give it 1.5.
1.5 thumbs.
1.5. It gets the half because Bruce Campbell was in it.
I like it.
As an adult, I acknowledge that I'm not the target market.
True.
And I personally would probably give it, I don't know, half a thumb or 1 thumb up. If I had watched this when I was maybe 10, I might have given it 2 thumbs up.
I go along the lines. I agree. As an adult, as almost a 40-year-old man, I'll just give it like a little tiny thumbs up. But mainly for, I think, the music and some of the setups with the adult superhero characters I thought were kind of nostalgic a little bit and kind of cool. But generally, the story, like Mike said, if I was 12 years old, I would have been like, yeah, great movie, yeah. But as 40-year-old man,
Like, I'll give it a solid 1 up. More in line with Andrew. Mostly because of those superstars of The Kids in the Hall, Bruce Campbell, Kurt Russell, of course. But yeah, Cloris Leachman, let's not forget her, and Wonder Woman, of course. But yeah, that's really what did it for me.
All right. So that was Sky High. And it's called Sky High because the high school is in the sky. So
yeah, don't.
If you didn't know, now you know.
It's not a. I thought you were making like a weed reference or something.
No, it's not the biography of Snoop Dogg. No.
Right. It's not that. Not at all.
So give it a watch if you got Disney Plus. You got nothing else to do, right? I mean, after you finish watching The Acolyte, you're gonna have to watch something. So.
Wouldn't that be great if that's what they suggested to you after watching The Acolyte? You might also like Sky High.
We might be going in another direction that takes us up into the sky with next month's pick. So I'll turn it over to Andrew.
So we are going next month to stick with Disney and company.
Yes.
But we're going to go take a time machine and go back to World War II with The Rocketeer from 1991, directed by Joe Johnston, with Billy Campbell, Alan Arkin, Jennifer Connelly, and the always wonderful Timothy Dalton, who could perhaps be second only to Willem Dafoe.
Willem Dafoe, come on.
It's always been a childhood favorite movie of mine, and I'm happy to share it with everybody here on the podcast next month. So, Eric, you can go ahead and tell us where we can find it. Disney.
Well, right? I was going to say, maybe if you just finished watching Sky High, I think it's more likely that you might get you might like to watch The Rocketeer, or vice versa. Those would probably be better linked than Sky High and The Acolyte. But yes, you can find it on Disney Plus. You can find a DVD copy at your local public library, I'm sure. Go find it on VHS though, because that's going to be even the best. But Disney Plus is probably the most modern way to find The Rocketeer, and I'm so excited we get to stay in Disney. Usually it's only me picking Disney, but look at that. Some of me is rubbing off on Andrew over there picking The Rocketeer. So watch The Rocketeer and meet us next time on the Rare Cuts Media Society. Visit us online at rarecutsmediasociety.com. There you can find old episodes, subscribe, or connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Thanks for listening.